everyone, it's Janani here with Saumitra, local biologist and educator extraordinaire, here to talk about the importance of native plants and how it connects to wildfires. Can you tell us what's a native plant versus an invasive plant, and why are invasives so bad for wildfires?
Sure. Native plants are plants that evolved in the place where they currently live. So native is a relative term. Something that's native to here in California might actually become invasive somewhere else. The reason invasive plants are so harmful to native ecosystems is that in native ecosystems, all of the species that live there exist in relationships with each other. So when you have non-native species entering that ecosystem and then spreading and reproducing, those non-native species are taking up resources that otherwise would go to native species. And by disrupting the relationships that help sustain life in those native ecosystems, non-native species can actually dismantle the life-supporting capacity and also the ecosystem services provided by native ecosystems.
So how did the invasive plants get here? Was it a policy choice, or did someone bring them by accident?
That is a great question, and the answer is pretty much all of the above. So a lot of our invasive annual grasses that cause, the majority of allergenic pollen and also a majority of fire risk in our area, a lot of those grasses actually came with the Spanish when they colonized this land, because they were importing grasses that they were already familiar with in order to give their cattle something to eat, without realizing that the plants that were already here were already quite good for cattle to eat, not to mention that they were sustaining a lot more life than just cattle. Like, there were millions of indigenous people living here before, and there still are, it's just they've been, forcibly separated from their land. The other thing is that the horticulture industry has actually introduced a lot of our most aggressive invasive plants, because when people don't know what the native plants are, they don't recognize how much more life those native ecosystems sustain, and it's really easy to get people to think that someplace like this is actually a barren landscape that's devoid of life, when something that's, bright green with showy flowers looks a lot more appealing to somebody who doesn't realize just how much life actually exists here. So the horticulture industry, by marketing these, tough, showy, drought-tolerant plants, especially the drought-tolerant catchline is really popular, because plants that are drought-tolerant save a lot of water if you're trying to irrigate your yard, but also those are the plants that are the best at becoming invasive in our drought-prone landscape.